All right, we're back. Go Big Orange Friday on a Thursday with Rocky Top Insiders Ryan Schumpert before he hits the road, the private jet to Baton Rouge, Louisiana. What is your favorite dish on the private jet, Ryan Schumpert?
They have this great, chicken that's kind of wrapped in bacon. It has some gravy over top, brown gravy. Really good, really high level stuff. Mashed potatoes with it, kind of like a Hardy Boys style of life.
Yeah,
where you're just always eating amazing. That's kind of what a private jet life's like.
A Hardy Boys type play. Yeah, and you're also a big Dr. Pepper guy. Do they have it on deck? Do they know you're coming, so they get the 12-pack of Dr. Pepper ready to go?
The 24-pack. Don't. Yeah, they gotta have me covered for way down and back. So yeah.
What's the most amount of Dr. Peppers you've actually drank in one day? What would you guess?
If we're gonna go by a 12-ounce Dr. Pepper, so when I go to a gas station to get a 32 ounce, and it counts, we'll say 3.
Mm-hmm.
I would guess I've been in the 10 range before.
The which one?
The 8 to 10 range.
Oh, no kidney stones for you though.
No kidney stones for me. And that's not normal. Again, that's worst case scenario. I go make a day trip to go cover a game. So waking up early, don't drink coffee, so got to get some caffeine. And then at the game, probably having a couple, and then drive back. A late night drive back. I probably wouldn't have the early morning drive, but a late night drive back. I've done a couple of those. Leave at 11 o'clock, drive 4 hours back, where I just got to be pounding them to stay energized. But not a coffee guy. Never had an energy drink. That's Dr. Pepper's kind of my source of caffeine.
Did you try coffee at least?
Oh yeah, I've tried coffee. Horrible drink, just terrible.
What a take! This is a horrible
Miserable
take.
I know I'm in the minority on it.
Yeah,
I've tried it because I know not that coffee is the healthiest thing in the world either. But I'm this is so unhealthy. How much Dr. Pepper I'm drinking.
Big Soda got to you.
Coffee,
What happened, Ryan? Big Soda, they got to you, and there's no turning back.
They threatened me with a world where I had to just watch the Fans Milk commercials over and over and over again if I don't drink Dr. Pepper. That's what happened.
If you had to do a Dr. Pepper ad read, how would you do it?
In what sense?
If in this podcast, and they were like, "Hey, Dr. Pepper, we heard about Ryan Shumpert's Dr. Pepper love. 30 seconds on if he could do his.
And I'm
experience.
coming up with it.
Yeah, could you come up with a good read? All right, ready to go.
Yeah.
Let's do it, Ryan.
Dr. Pepper, new sponsor, Chase Thomas Podcast. Welcome them in. A great beverage, highest level soft drink there is. 23 flavors. 23 flavors of Dr. Pepper. You got the Dr. Pepper, Diet Dr. Pepper. By far the best diet drink of any soft drink. By far. Not even close. Dr. Pepper Cherry, Dr. Pepper Vanilla. It's high level stuff. The 23 flavors they combined in your mouth. And wow, what a burst. What a burst of flavor. Dr. Pepper. Shout out, newest sponsor, Chase Thomas Podcast.
That was pretty good. That was good. It felt
right
real.
Off the cuff.
Yeah.
I mean, there are few people that can endorse Dr. Pepper with as much true and genuine intention as I can. There's no doubt about that.
How do I transition to Warren Burrell from here?
I can do a good Dr. Pepper ad read. I can't. I don't have it in me to do that level of transitioning though.
Well, I'll do it. I'll see what I can do. Warren Burrell, he is out for the season, Ryan. That was revealed earlier this week. So no Warren Burrell. Insert Dee Williams, who is apparently going to play a significant role. I saw from Bib McKee today that Heupel said that Dee Williams is going to play a big role on Saturday, who we have literally not seen yet. So that's interesting. But what do you make of Burrell's now season-long absence, and where does that put the Tennessee secondary with Dee Williams entering the fold? Do you see movement around the secondary where certain guys who were going to be at the star or certain guys who were at safety, you mix and match? How do you think Willie Martinez goes forward without Warren Burrell? And he knows Warren Burrell is gone for the year.
I think it's pretty dependent on what Dee Williams gives Tennessee. If Dee Williams can step up and be a guy that shoulders maybe 50% of the snaps with Christian Charles and plays pretty well, or pretty well might not even be the right word because I'm not sure any of Tennessee's corners besides Kamal Haddon will play pretty well this season, but play at a similar level to what you already have, then while Burrell's loss is certainly just that, a loss, I don't think it's crippling or overwhelming, and I don't think you would see a lot of changes with guys moving around in the back end of the defense. Now, if Dee Williams were to be banged up again, or he struggles to come in and really produce anything for Tennessee, they can't trust him to play. He ends up being in that same boat as a Brandon Turnage. Then I think maybe you do look at some potential guys moving around. Maybe probably would have to be someone at the star spot out the corner. I think would be the most logical. Probably, I think Wesley Walker's probably more of a safety, so I wouldn't think it would be him. I would think maybe he would slide in to that starting spot. So I think it's going to be interesting to see. I think in the short term, probably not a whole lot of movement and a whole lot of changes, but I think it's pretty dependent on what Dee Williams can give Tennessee.
Do you think we see a lot of Rucker and Brandon Turnage on Saturday?
No, not unless they're forced to. I mean, those two guys got in briefly in the Florida game, and Brandon Turnage was in for a play, and they immediately hit a 30-yard pass over
So
him.
It's funny you say that, because Turnage, that was on my side of the field for the game, right? And there was a Florida fan next to me. My wife was up getting some Petros, so he was standing next to me, and I'm dying silently with my broken foot. Like as you mentioned, gritty effort. We haven't talked since then because you weren't on the pod last week. So let me tell you, miserable, Ryan. Like, I was screaming internally in pain with just how much I was having to walk around and move. And I mean, I got dropped off at the communications building, and I was still dying by the end of it, and just asking everyone to drive me to my car, like just asking cops, staff, like, hey, just let me jump on the back. If you're, one guy was like, oh, it's illegal for you to ride, and I'm like, that's definitely not a thing. One of the groundskeeper cars, you know what I'm talking about, like they just can't. And I'm like, you can, that's not a thing, illegal, like someone's gonna stop the guy with the broken foot. Wow, what are you doing? Get this man out of here, you're going to jail, sir. But no, so Turnage went in, and I saw Turnage go in on my side, and I turned to the Florida fan, and I was like, I guarantee you they're going at Turnage right now. Like, I guarantee you they're going to Turnage. And first play, like you said, 30-yard big play, and I was like, that's it. Turnage is gone. And he was like, oh my God. And I was like, yeah, Richardson literally just saw Turnage come on the field, and Napier, I'm sure, because it's on the Florida side, that he comes over, and they're like, no. We're calling it. It's going to the side. I don't remember if it was Pearsall or who they hit on that one, but they immediately targeted, which is crazy because, like, Turnage is actually, like, the highest recruit rated player in the secondary, right? Like, I think of the starting corners, he was like, what, 95 on 247? He was a 4-star kid. But just, oh my God, not good.
No, and pretty surprising too.
Yeah.
Not that, I thought Brandon Turner was going to be a stud, but for him to be someone who literally cannot help Tennessee at corner, I did not see that coming at all. And, I really thought he probably, which probably is me being subject to just looking at the recruiting rankings a little bit, and how he did when he had some opportunities last year in the star with Theo Jackson. Now, I thought he probably had the highest ceiling of any, maybe besides Charles, because he's, I think, talented and obviously just still pretty young and played safety in his freshman season. But I thought he had a high ceiling, and man, it has not come together for him this season.
Yeah, and a lot of folks are like, oh, Tennessee is going to live and die by the secondary. Oh, this is good. It's like, well, Tennessee could win 10 games with the bad secondary. You can win multiple games. Like, I don't know if you watched the Wake Forest Demon Deacons last year, but it was not exactly just a bunch of elite DBs back there. But when you have a Sam Hartman and you have the offensive firepower that you like in this kind of sport, that just wins a lot of games. Like, you're just going to win more often than not when you're literally number one right now in passing offense. Tennessee is number one in the country right now in passing offense. Hendon Hooker, the best QBR through 4 weeks. Like, that's going to win you most games. And I think we talked about it where Tennessee was the only team in college football last year in the Power 5 to have a top 10 scoring offense and not win 10 games of everyone in the list. And if they're there again, I'm there. And what did I say before the season, Ryan? Is either Tennessee makes a big jump and they're at 10, or they take a big step back because everyone adjusted and Heupel doesn't have an answer to the adjustment at 6-6. We're going towards the former. So I don't know. I'm very excited about this matchup because I think a lot of Tennessee fans are nervous going to Death Valley on Saturday. 11 a.m. kick, which a lot of folks seem to feel is in Tennessee's favor. I tend to share that sentiment. I don't know if that will ultimately sway which way this game goes, it not being a night game in Death Valley, but I do think at the very least it helps. But it's interesting, like the history of Tennessee on the road, especially against SEC West foes, is not good the last 20 years. Like you go through the list, SportsCenter had a crazy stat of like, I'd have to pull it up, but so basically Tennessee has not been good on the road against ranked teams for a very long time. That has just not been Tennessee football since basically the early 2000s, late 90s. Like it's just been a mess on the road against high-profile SEC competition. That being said, I look at the matchup and I don't see LSU being a good matchup for Tennessee, where LSU, they run the ball really well. Tennessee, the one thing they're pretty good at to this point in the season, I think they're like 32nd per CFB stats in run defense. And watching week over week, Richardson shredded Tennessee through the air. It wasn't on the ground. Tennessee held their own on that front, and they really have. In the Pitt game, outside of the big run by Pitt's running back, I mean, what? You take away that 75-yard run, you're looking at a completely different running stat and running line in that one. Tennessee is good at stopping the run, and Jaden Daniels has not been efficient through the air to this point. I don't think this is a good matchup for them. I think Tennessee should actually win comfortably, and if this is a home game for Tennessee, I think they'd be favored by more than the Florida game. Do you share that sentiment?
I do. I think there's just a lot of factors in this game that works well for Tennessee, and you hit on really the more on-the-field stuff on Saturday. We'll see, but obviously the 11 a.m. kickoff. Tennessee is coming off a bye week, where LSU is coming off of a really emotional and physical win at Auburn, and a game that Jaden Daniels, for the second straight week, leaves the game with an injury, and a different injury than the one before. And he's going to play, and we know that, and he'll probably will be able to run the ball some, but I imagine he will be limited in what he can do with his legs. So I think there's just a lot of factors that come in this game and help Tennessee. And I think it was really good for Tennessee that LSU did win against Auburn, because you're not going to have a desperate team that they're going to face Saturday in Tiger Stadium. So I think you're right, and I think you hit the nail on the head. I think the biggest matchup to watch is LSU's passing attack versus Tennessee's pass defense, because it is a very movable object meets a very easily stopped force, and something's got to give. And I mean, LSU has really circled the wagons this week, I would say, with that. I mean, Brian Kelly has talked about in his press conference at length about how Jaden Daniels has to trust his receivers and has to give them an opportunity to make plays. And Jaden Daniels called a closed-door players-only meeting between him, his receivers, and tight ends, rest of the pass catchers, to figure out the passing attack. And certainly from LSU's side of things, there's probably not a better game for them to figure out than against Tennessee. Because just what you said, you saw what Anthony Richardson, who had a lot of similar struggles, do against Tennessee 2 weeks ago. I think Tennessee's going to be better in the pass defense than they were against Florida in that Florida game. And I think you're right. LSU's rushing attack, I think Tennessee's going to be able to at least limit it where they don't get killed on the ground. And LSU's pass protection hasn't been very good either. I think this is a game that Tennessee can get some pressure with four guys. And I think if they do that, that's just going to make life all the more difficult for Jaden Daniels. And I think it really is a matchup Tennessee that sets up well for Tennessee. And I think I'm going to have Tennessee winning this game by about 2 touchdowns.
Isn't it crazy? Like, we're just 2 touchdowns on the road in Death Valley. It just feels right. And it just does. And I think, look, I get the PTSD for a lot of Tennessee fans about all this stuff, but like, part of the thing I don't really pay too much mind to when it comes to past stats is just like the history there. It's like, that's Derek Dooley, that's Elaine Kennedy. Like, that has no bearing on any of the players or any of the coaching staff that's here right now. It's hard to just put too much stock into that. And I'm definitely not a superstitious person and just like, oh, there's something wrong with Tennessee on the road and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, I think things are just different. And I'm curious, though, because LSU now has had time to look to see what Tennessee looks like without Cedric Tillman. And we'll see if he plays on Saturday. I know he's flying with the team after getting the tightrope ankle surgery, and he's been limited this week. But he seems like a game-time decision if he's going to go. But if he does play, like, he's not going to be the same. It's not like I would not expect him to get the kind of targets and looks from Hendon Hooker that he had gotten through the first 3 weeks of the season. And I wonder if that messes things up a little bit, or you kind of want to just know, can you go and we play normally with you, or not go? Because we actually had a lot of success with Brew out wide, which is kind of forgotten about because Ramel Keaton, our old friend, just blew everybody's mind just with, I mean, the deep catches, laying it all out for Tennessee deep. Like, that was big. I think that might be a tough conversation to have where it's like, hey, we either need you to go or not, because then it just messes up our rotation and it makes it more complicated for the guys like Ramel and Brew to know exactly what's coming for them. I don't know. I think that's something to monitor a little bit. Is that overthinking it?
I think that's an interesting idea, but I just think to me it's still at the point where it's kind of skeptical.
Mm,
So much skepticism around Tillman playing that I just kind of feel like Tennessee is preparing to play without him. And if he
yeah.
can play and he can go, that's great. We'll put him out there, but he's not going to be 100%. Even if he plays, he's not going to be 100%. It's not going to be the
Mm,
same guy you saw at Pitt. So I think the game plan is kind of similar to what it was against Florida. We're not going to have Tillman. If he's out there and he can go, great. But it's not going to all of a sudden, just because he's out there, turn into the Pittsburgh game or a lot of the times, really the last season when Tennessee's been playing big time teams where it's Cedric Tillman's the go-to guy. I think it's just kind of preparation for him, preparation for the game without him. And if he's out there, great, we'll get him involved too. But I think Tennessee's very prepared to play this game without him. And I think it's a big game for Ramel Keaton because let's say he goes out and does what he did again. Let's take away the amazing 40-yard catch. But
mm.
he has 3 or 4 big plays. He has 40 yards, 50 yards. I think that's the point where Ramel Keaton has kind of forced himself to be in the lineup or be in the rotation, even when Tillman comes back. And, I've been more skeptical about Tennessee playing a lot of receivers than anybody. But I think if Keaton continues to show what he's capable of and show what he did against Florida, I think he's going to find himself getting snaps, even when Tillman comes back. Probably not Tillman snaps, probably Brew McCoy snaps for the most part, but I think he's going to almost make himself, he has a chance at least to make himself a part of the rotation the rest of the season.
I really just think it comes down to like Tennessee not winning by double digits is the turnovers. Like at the fumbles, like Princeton Fant had the big fumble into the end zone. He responded really well, and that was huge. We can just knock on wood, throw out interceptions for Tennessee. Like that is just not what Hendon Hooker does, and that is what Auburn did in the second half. Like the interceptions, the turnovers, like in the red zone. That is the reason Auburn did not win that football game, is the 4-1 turnover margin. And Tennessee, if they're not muffing punts inside their 10, if they're not fumbling the ball, really, because I just don't think the interceptions are there. And I don't think Hendon Hooker is going to get antsy and make some boneheaded moves on Saturday. It's just not him. There's too much of a body of work now to just go, that's not what's going to happen in this game. Now, the fumbles is the thing. Like, I think that might determine whether or not Tennessee wins big or Tennessee is in a dogfight with 2 minutes left in this game. And it's significantly closer than it should be. I mean, that's the thing, is I hope the stress this week has all been about just hold on to the ball and there's no way we lose this game. Like no fumbles. Whoever, like Princeton Fant, Trey Flowers, Hendon getting blindsided hit, like whatever. That's the main thing, because he's not going to put us in harm's way through the air. If we just hold on to the ball, we should be fine.
You're right, and that's something I talked about really back before the Florida game that I think is almost so frustrating with how Tennessee played early in the season, is that Tennessee should win a turnover battle every game, or at least not lose it, because you have a quarterback that takes such good care of the ball, and you have such confidence that he's not going to make mistakes. And you even look at the interceptions he's thrown, obviously to Pitt, one last year, his first game in, and then the Alabama and Georgia one, where kind of Tennessee was down late and he was pressing. It was a situation that Tennessee, I don't expect him to be in on Saturday. So you're absolutely right. And I think it's very much about not making dumb special teams mistakes. And I'll say I still think Tennessee is not, or Paxton Brooks is not as quick as he needs to be on some of these punts. There's still been a couple, not as super close calls, even like there was in the Pitt game before they blocked that one. There was the one they were real close. But I still think that's an area to watch. And certainly with Tennessee, does Dee Williams, with him being back, does he get a look at punt returner? Because he was one of the guys that was mentioned in fall camp as one of their main candidates to return punts. So I think that's a huge emphasis. And kind of on the flip side, Jaden Daniels hasn't thrown an interception this year. And I talked about all the discussions of them wanting to be more aggressive in the passing game and take more chances. Does he take a poor chance? Does he because he was turnover prone at Arizona State. It wasn't like he came in with the reputation that Hooker has had this past year, where he threw 3 interceptions last season. He threw a lot of interceptions last season. And I do think on the flip side, where LSU may hit some big plays in the passing game that they haven't, I think if Tennessee can find a way to get pressure, and Daniels being a little more aggressive, I think they can get a couple takeaways that LSU really hasn't been prone to give up so far this season.
Do you feel like Tennessee fans are okay with the loss here? I feel like most they're okay with this one.
I kind of disagree. I mean, I don't think it's gonna be like what it would have been if they lost to Pitt or if they had lost to Florida.
I think those would have been way more of a problem.
I agree, but I think there's so much excitement around what this team can be, and the fact that Tennessee is better than LSU is shown that they're better than LSU at this point in the season. People are still going to be upset. Now, I think you're right. It is probably the least they'll be upset of a lot of the toss-up games, but I think there's just right now such a feeling around the team that this could be a special season, and I think to drop a game that, especially depending on how they do it, because if Tennessee loses, it's probably going to be because they make some of these mistakes we're talking about, just self-inflicted wounds. I think it's going to have people pretty frustrated at least.
That's fair. We'll see what ultimately happens. I'm okay with it. I think they're going to be careful with said. I think they want said for Alabama. I think that's the thing. Is like just get to Alabama at home, and I think there's no chance that man is not full go in Neyland next weekend. But it'll be fun. Smoky Grays. Are you in favor of the Smoky Grays? Are you a proponent, Ryan?
Not really, but look, they didn't wear them against Florida. I mean, I had my big rant in the offseason. How beautiful is it going to be watching the replay of that Florida game from years to come with Tennessee wearing orange uniforms? I think the fact that they're wearing them this week means they won't wear them against Alabama. So I can live with it. You got to make sacrifices. This is
I wouldn't like the Smoky Grays against Alabama. That's preposterous. That has to always be classic.
Yes, exactly. And I think part of the reason that I don't like him in the LSU game is I just go back and watch, really not highlights, but the end of that 2010 game because it's so funny to watch, honestly. The Tennessee LSU game in 2010, the 13-minute on the field game. And, man, those uniform combinations, they look beautiful. The LSU white with yellow pants, Tennessee orange jerseys, white pants, they look phenomenal together. So, a little disappointed that we won't get that. But, hey, like I said, you got to make sacrifices. And Tennessee not wearing alternate uniforms against Florida and Alabama, I can live with them wearing them on the road at LSU.
Yeah, it feels like the black is coming out against Kentucky, right? That's what we'd assume.
Yeah, I mean, it just has that feel because it is Halloween weekend, and you look at the SEC slate that day. Obviously, there's still stuff can happen in the next few weeks. It feels like it's going to be a night game. I think of the home games on Tennessee's schedule, it has the best chance, or the remaining games, it has the best chance to be a night game. So
they might do Mizzou at home at 8 a.m. just to get it out of the way.
just get it over with for today. Make it be a 7 a.m. game for the Central Time Missouri.
Can Mizzou forfeit? Can we just go ahead and sim that one in? Because I don't know if we can go ahead and lock it in on October 6th, but Tennessee's winning that game by 4 touchdowns. Just go ahead and lock it in. There's no point for Eli Drinkwitz and his team to come to Knoxville.
Well, I think the point is that Eli Drinkwitz can pay with a 4-touchdown loss for his snarky comments about Tennessee this offseason. Come on, buddy. You lost to a Jeremy Pruitt team that won 3 games, and you were gonna talk trash about it. Come on, man. You're better than that.
Ooh, strong words from Ryan Schumpert. I also just think I wonder if this is the week where Tennessee fans, if they pull this off against LSU, where I think some are still holdouts, like a lot of my family who've just grown up and just went to Tennessee 40 years ago and have seen this story before, and they're like, I'm not buying all the way back in, and I'm like, there's a reason they're number 6 in college football playoff odds. There's a reason that they have the 3rd highest probability of winning the SEC as a whole. Is like the body of work now. We're a season and a half in. This is sustainable. I think at some point you just have to dip your toes in and just say, hey, this offense isn't going anywhere. This is an offensive-driven sport. Tennessee is going to win more games than they lose for the foreseeable future, and I think this is one of the 6 best teams in the country this year, and I think that's not going to change for the remainder of the year. It's funny, you just have to, I wonder which game it just clicks for the final holdouts of this is different, this is sustainable, the recruits are coming, it's just, this is all happening, and you have to you have to get okay with this is all just part of a new era of Tennessee football, and I wonder if it's the LSU game.
I think there's a lot to point to it maybe being the LSU game, but I wonder if there's a lot of 2016 still in people's minds where
I just think
started
it's different.
4-0. And I agree, but I think that's the last season in the last 15 years where Tennessee started so hot and you you had this buzz around the team, and Tennessee was in the top 10.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the fact that so much of the schedule, obviously the Georgia game is later, but obviously Georgia that year isn't anything comparable to Georgia this year. But you win 2 games early in the season, pretty big games, and you're 4-0, and then you head to an SEC West team that you're very capable of beating. I don't remember what the point spread was in that 2016 A&M game, but I imagine it was a field goal one way or the other, probably. So similar to what you have Saturday, and that being before the Alabama game. I do think that there probably will be a lot of people that are skeptical, that they buy in if Tennessee wins on Saturday. And, if you don't buy in after, I agree with you. I think you should already be bought in. But if you haven't bought in yet and you don't buy in after the LSU game, I mean, what are you waiting for? Like, maybe if you're thinking Tennessee's going to win a national championship, you're waiting to see if they can beat Alabama or Georgia. But it's like for Tennessee to go 10-2, they got their three of their 4 hardest games out of the way if they beat LSU, which is that Kentucky game remaining. So I'm with you. I think people should be all in at this point, and if they're not, I think most everybody will be after Saturday if the Vols get the win.
Vysen Lang, do you think he's a Vol? Feels like he is, right?
It does feel like he is. I mean, anytime you see a commitment date announced a week after he visits one school,
yeah,
that feels like a pretty positive sign. And I do think there's been some crystal balls over at 24/7 that have Lang going to Tennessee. So that seems to be the way that one's trending, but I guess we'll see in a few weeks here for sure.
What do you think he is? Is he a guard or a tackle?
I just look at that body size, and I'm not a guru of figuring out what people are. I haven't poured over the tape, but I just look at that body size, and I think guard. I think Tennessee would like him to be a tackle just from the topic we've discussed on here a handful of times that they struck out on 3 of their top 4 offensive.
They're still missing
prospects.
1.
They're still missing 1, and I think they're kind of really doing a lot of reevaluation of the board probably this fall when they look at senior season tape of some guys. So I could see him, if Tennessee gets him starting at tackle, but I don't know. I just look at that body in that frame, and I say that's an interior offensive lineman.
Yeah, I would agree. We'll see. I think the portal is ultimately where they land on the second offensive tackle spot. I don't think unless maybe Lucas Simmons. That's the one holdout I'll say, is I would not be surprised if Florida State, because they got NC State at home this weekend, Clemson, or NC State on the road actually, and then Clemson. I mean, if you look at Florida State's schedule down the stretch here, it's rough. They got to go to Miami, I believe, and then Florida. They didn't get over that hump last year. That there's a path to 6-6 Florida State, and maybe the Vols can get back into the Lucas Simmons sweepstakes. But I would not rule that one out based on the intel there. Ryan Schumpert, what can the good folks check out from you over at Rocky Top Insider this week?
Yeah, so plenty of stuff getting you guys ready for the game, kind of looking at some of it, Tennessee's injury stuff. Dee Williams will have 3 keys to the game tomorrow, and also a piece looking at how Josh Heupel's performed in his career coming off the bye week. So plenty of stuff on the football front, and then kind of dipping our toe into the basketball stuff. Tennessee had their in-house media day this week, so had some good stuff from that, and then also some practice observations watching the Vols really scrimmage, not even really practice, but scrimmage for a couple hours earlier this week. So I know it's obviously a lot of excitement around football, as there should be, but I think another really good top 10, top 15 Tennessee basketball team will be on the court this winter, and plenty of stuff to get you ready for that. As I think Monday will be 4 weeks from the first game, so we're getting closer and closer.
There we go. And Zakai, the last number 5 for the Tennessee Volunteers.
The last number 5 ever. He looked darn good in the scrimmage the other day. I think he's made some more jumps. He's going to be a good number 5 to go out on.
I don't think that should be a retired number. Chris Lofton was awesome. Number 5, that's a great number. Can't do it. Out. The verdict is out. Just let other people be number 5. Just honor him in another way. Just raise the jersey in the rafters, whatever. I like Chris Lofton, friend of the pod, but I don't know.
That's a bad take. There's plenty of numbers that people can wear. There's
number 5 is a good one.
It is a good one. But you have 6 times 5. You got 30 numbers to choose from. You can find other good ones.
I don't know. Can it be unretired in 10 years? That's what it should be. It's like you unretired after a certain amount of time when people forget.
Can it be unretired when a really big recruit wants to wear number 5?
Yes, that's how it should work. That is how it should work. Is they get permission. You basically have to get permission from the guy.
Yeah.
Where if he's okay, yeah, you can have it. That's fine.
You can have it. Yeah.
If Nico went to Peyton was I want 16. Peyton's all right, if you want to follow.
Okay.
Good luck.
What a move that would be.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, this was great per usual, my friend. Safe travels to Baton Rouge, Ryan, and we'll check back in next week. Man, following an LSU game on the road and then Alabama that following weekend. It's going to be a crazy, crazy next week or so here on Rocky Top, and we'll talk about it then.
That's great. Probably.